I've been looking forward to my last Zoom of the day because it was with the one and only Larry Broughton. I had a chance to connect with Larry through Joe DiChiara, the entrepreneur with the CPA, he calls himself. And
Yeah.
he connected us, and I'm glad he did. I had the chance to sit down with Larry on that entrepreneur show coming out soon for episode 250. But for today, here on Writing with Authors, we are going to dive into his writing journey. Thank you for stopping by for our first episode after the new year. My name is Vincent A. Lanci, and we're going to talk about his latest book. Book 4 is here. Book 5's on the way. Let me share a brief intro of Victory, 7 revolutionary strategies to launch your business, elevate your impact, and transform your life. These strategies are vision, intel, coaching, team, ops, rapid action, and you.
Yes.
Each one of these chapters provides simple but powerful action steps in those areas to catapult your success, as well as surprising insights Larry has gleaned through years of his military experience and working with thousands of entrepreneurs and business leaders throughout the world. He's got a call to action in there, which I can't wait to learn all about. Larry, it's great to see you again. Thanks for stopping by.
It's always good to get together with you. Love your energy. I love what you're doing for the world out there. So thanks for having me on again.
Well, I'm glad you came on this series because we made a difference in the entrepreneurial world. We inspired all of the business owners and aspiring business owners on that set. For today, we're diving into the writing world. I can't wait to learn about this because we didn't touch on it too much. What led you to writing book 1?
Well, gosh, book 1, what the heck was book 1? You know, I've co-authored a few books on leadership and entrepreneurship. And, you know, I think the first book I did on my own, however, was a book called Flashpoints for Achievers. It was a daily journal. It's an interesting story in that I learned through my therapy and everything else, I need to start journaling on a regular basis. And so I started just writing these brief little, roughly 130 word missives each day as kind of to set my intention for the day. And when I started coaching and I started having team members I was sharing these with, people started sharing them. And the next thing you knew, Darren Hardy, who was the publisher of Success Magazine, he and I were working on a hotel project together, believe it or not. And he started getting these things, and he sent me an email one day, and I still have it. And he said, you know, I get bombarded by emails every day with motivational, inspirational quotes. And I thought, oh my gosh, the hammer's going to come down, like, stop sending me these damn things. But what he said, the email went on to say, there's only one that I keep, and I have a folder on my desk, and those are yours. You should put these into a book. And then I went on, it was the first big national TV show I ever went on, was called The Big Idea with Donnie Deutsch. It was a CNBC business show. And he had been receiving these for a few weeks prior to me going on the show. And he said the same darn thing. He said, and after I went on the show and was able to actually string a few sentences together, he said, you need to put these into a book. And so it forced me to sit down and actually get intentional about this. And so it's a daily journal, and that thing is sold tens of thousands. I should actually do the count at some point. But there's large organizations like Fortune 50 companies that have contacted us and said, hey, we use this daily journal for our morning stand-up each day.
Love that.
So that kind of inspired me to do the first book.
I think that's great because you were feeling a need, obviously, and it caught on like fire.
Well, listen, one of my mantras is, when 2 or more high achievers tell you the same thing, you need to listen up. So with Donnie Deutsch telling me this, Darren Hardy telling me this, I thought I need to do this. And so I did it.
And now here we are, fast forward. I previewed in the beginning. We have book 5 on the way, but we don't have that for our listeners to order as soon as this episode's over. Let's talk about book 4. I believe it is Victory.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So this book came about just that I'd realized after coaching and mentoring a bunch of folks that people were just floundering. And there's a lot of great books out there. There really are. And the difference with this one, though, is that it's definitely in a conversational style. It sounds like you've read it. So I think it feels like I'm actually talking to you. But what I try to do is distill the 7 most powerful tips if you are actually going to be launching your business, or if you're a leader or a high achiever and you're trying to take, this is such a cliche term, take your impact to the next level, right? you can be working on yourself all day long if you want to make an impact on the world, but you're not getting the word out, then you're kind of living your life. You're like a light under a bushel, as they say, right? So it's kind of a how-to book in many ways, but you kind of alluded to it through the various chapters. It's an acrostic. Victory is an acrostic, as it turns out. And the interesting thing about this cover, you may have
Yeah,
picked
hold
up
it
on
up.
it,
Great.
is that it looks like a former Soviet Union or a Soviet propaganda poster, right? Well, it's
Yeah.
very intentional because this is definitely a book for capitalists. And this is meant to be a stick in the eye of, socialist and communist forms of government. Because the truth is, more entrepreneurs has lifted people out of poverty than any other social or governmental program. And that's kind of the call to action in this book, is like, the government's not going to save our bacon, my friends. It's the entrepreneur class that's going to do it. And frankly, I've received, I don't know, maybe a couple of dozen messages over the years that have said the intro to the book and that chapter, which is the call to action, which is it's called Freedom Road, is worth the purchase price right there. So I'm glad that people are feeling inspired to pick up the banner of entrepreneurship and make an impact in the world.
Well, everyone viewing on, be sure to head to the link in the episode description. Scroll down. We have Larry's website, all of his books right there. Be sure to check it out before book 5 comes out. Can we preview book 5 a little bit? Are we able to talk about it?
Yeah, sure. Listen, book 5, it's really about the power of storytelling. All right. Long before the written word, long before we all became authors, life's most powerful lessons were shared through storytelling. Right. And I've seen so many folks who have the greatest of intentions
Mhm.
to make change in an organization or to inspire great things, but they don't know how to tell a compelling story. Right. And so the purpose of the book is to show people how to do that and actually give examples of some of the most powerful parables and stories that are out there. One of my favorite mantras is if you want to be a transformational leader, you must be a master storyteller. So we're expecting that to be out in time for the holidays. We're filming this in early 2023. So my hope is by October of this year, that's actually out and ready to roll.
Well, I'm ready for that one because as a speaker and author, someone who's in the classrooms, speaking at organizations, you always need to improve your storytelling. You can't
Absolutely.
just speak, you'll lose the audience. You have to paint that picture,
For
tell the
sure.
story. I love that.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that
Thanks,
success
buddy.
for book 5. But before we let you go, we find out where to find him. What's some advice you can offer some writers out there?
Okay, let me give you a couple.
Writing
You
advice.
probably, yeah, you probably heard this before, but writing is like developing any muscle. You've got to do it regularly, right? And so one of the daily practices I do is I try to write every single day. And sometimes it's just a sentence, and sometimes I just deconstruct that one sentence. You read through Victory Book. There are very few superfluous sentences in that book. They have meaning. Most of them have meaning, or you build on another. So try to write at least one sentence a day. When you build that habit, then the paragraph comes next, and then the page, and you just get into a flow. Whether you feel like you're in the writing mood or not, whether you feel like you got writer's block or not, sit down and write something. Even if it's a word that moved you that day, start with that word. Another thing, Vincent, is that I've heard a lot of folks say, well, I don't know, like, who's my audience? I feel like I've got a book in me, but I don't know who's going to be the reader, right? And so I always talk about write to your affinity group first. So what's an affinity group? Well, it's someone where you have a natural connection with. So for me, for instance, I was a wrestler in high school. I was a martial artist. I was in the military. I was in the Green Berets. I'm an entrepreneur. Those folks are naturally my affinity groups because I can speak their language, right?
Exactly.
So I consider that. And probably finally, I kind of alluded to this earlier. What I'm finding is that just because you're a best-selling author, which I am, doesn't mean you're the most read author. A lot of people will buy a book, they'll read a couple pages, they can't connect with it. Maybe it's too heady, maybe it's too academic. So I try to write in a conversational style. I mean, I get tons of messages where people say, hey, I bought this at the airport in Los Angeles, made big impact by the time I got to New York, and I felt like you were speaking right into my ear. So they get in a connection with you. Well, why is that good? Well, they're going to feel a sense of accomplishment, and they're going to associate that with you the next time your next book comes out.
I love
There's
it.
a few tips.
That's great. My first book was in that same. I was writing, and as you read the book, it's kind of, if you hear my voice once, then you can actually picture it. I feel like
Yes.
in the book. You brought so much value to this show today. Thank
Right.
you again, Larry, for stopping
Yeah.
by. Now, where's your website, where the book's located at, all of that good stuff.
Sure. The easiest way to find me is at thelarrybroughton.com, BROUGHTON.com. I'm on most social media platforms, just at Larry Broughton.
Be sure to go check him out right now. Again, scroll down the episode description and be on the lookout. When this episode goes live, it'll be about 2 or 3 weeks until episode 250 on that Entrepreneur Show. A very special episode we've already recorded and put together. Be sure to check out the show at Vincent A. Lanci and hashtag Writing with Authors on Facebook and LinkedIn. We do have all of the shows streaming there for you. And on Vincent A. Lanci on YouTube and Instagram, we'll have some video clips. But until next Sunday, we're signing off. Larry, talk to you soon.
All right, very good. Good to see you.